This case is like a super onion.
Infamous Google search cost long to die in the cold.
Cellebrite updated physical analyzer.
This Google search became a pivotal piece of evidence for the defense.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Ask the Expert. I'm Heather Barnhart, and I'm here with Ian Whiffin, the infamous genius who was tied to the Karen Read trial. We are here for the very first time to discuss this with you.
We are coming on the air with breaking news.
Karen Read walking out of court with hand over heart and a major win in her murder trial redo.
Just to catch you up, in case you've lived under a rock or avoided social media and the news, Karen Read is a Massachusetts woman who earlier this summer was acquitted of murder in her boyfriend's tragic death. This was her second trial. So Ian, I believe the first trial ended with a hung jury, and it was a mistrial, so she had to go through it twice. You had to go through it twice. More of her background. Her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, was a Boston police officer, and in January of 2022, he was found dead in the front lawn of another Boston police officer's home in a Massachusetts suburb in the early morning hours in the middle of a blizzard. I'm not going to get into the details of all of the basics and the foundation of this case. You have read it, you've heard it. I'm sure Ian will allude more to the digital evidence and what that spoke for. But the prosecution accused Karen of driving drunk and backing into John with her SUV and then fleeing the scene, leaving him to die in the snow. The defense said that Karen Read was innocent and dropped John O'Keefe off at home and left. They said he was beat up in the home and dumped on the lawn. So this is where the conspiracies really came out. The police officers apparently were involved and covered it up. So everyone has their own opinions. We've seen them all over social media, but that's really the basics of the case. This case is like a super onion with so many layers. The more you peel back, you're like, what is actually happening? It was a media circus, extremely high profile, and our very own Ian Whiffin was kind of the ringmaster at times of that circus. So Ian, seriously, I applaud you, one, for your patience and not flipping out. I know many times I wanted to flip out on your behalf, so I was emotionally in this with you, but you did a fantastic job. For those of you that don't know Ian, he's not just the brilliant mind of forensics. He is also our decoding manager here at Cellebrite. So Ian takes all the things that are stored in that lovely brain of his and tries to dump it back into the tools for everyone else that needs Ian's brain to help us solve our digital forensic investigations. All right, Ian, you ready for some questions?
I am. Go for it.
And then we'll have some fun at the end too. All right, why were you brought into this case?
Okay. So I initially got involved in this case after a true crime podcaster contacted Cellebrite asking for clarification because of some things that he'd seen in other people's blogs, some things that had been tweeted related to an artifact that Physical Analyzer had passed. Basically, police had obviously extracted a bunch of phones at the time of John's death, done their own analysis, including the analysis of a witness's device, which was written off at the time as not containing anything relevant to the case. About a year later, defense experts took that same extraction and ran it through Physical Analyzer as well, and now found a timestamp which they thought was a smoking gun. The timestamp itself was related to a Google search, the infamous Google search, "Cost long to die in the cold," which is an obvious misspelling of the term "how long to die in the cold." I'll say this search had actually been found initially by police using Physical Analyzer 752, but at that time, the timestamp attached to it was around 6:23, 6:24 a.m. after John's body had been found and therefore deemed not evidentially significant. However, when the expert for the defense took the same data, they used a newer version of Physical Analyzer. This newer version had additional support. Obviously, we always add support for new artifacts as time goes on. And this new artifact support for a database called Browser State gave a timestamp of 2:27 a.m. for that same Google search. And that's important. 227 is a really important time because that would mean that this is around 3.5, 4 hours before John's body was found, implying that somebody had some knowledge that he was outside dying in the cold before anybody should have known that that was the case. So this Google search became a pivotal piece of evidence for the defense to try to prove that someone other than Karen was responsible for John's death.
So a few things. I have many comments on this one. Cellebrite updated Physical Analyzer based upon your research and what you learned in that case so that people who don't understand how to validate don't have time to validate, and for better lack of other terms, press buttons to get answers. The answer will be correct in their face going forward.
Yes, I think we always try to provide information which is correct to the best of our knowledge and ability at the time based on the research. We always want to give information which can be verified by the examiners. And in this case, once I started to look at the data and look at the evidence, I determined that the timestamp in the browser state database was related to the time that the tab, so the browser tab actually took focus, and not the time that the search occurred or the navigation event occurred. So essentially, if you imagine opening up a brand new tab at 10 a.m. in the morning, using it to surf for 30 minutes or so, visiting numerous web pages during that time. When you eventually close that tab, a record's created in the browser state database saying the tab opened at 10 a.m. The last page that was visited, the one that was visited at like 10:30, is this. So there's no correlation between the two. And that's essentially what my research was focusing on, that timestamp is not necessarily the time the page was visited. It could be before, it could be after, but it's irrelevant to the actual URL. So based on that, we updated our decoding to remove any kind of confusion and to ensure that we give you the web page that was visited, but we can't say that this is the time. So we just remove the time altogether because we don't.
And I think that's way better. And something I wanted to comment to some of the social media trolls who have zero digital forensics knowledge in their bodies, but think they know better than our very own Ian Whiffin. Tools cannot be static in nature. A static tool should never be used in a forensic lab ever because technology is constantly changing. These apps change, browsers change, and we adapt to it. So we have to just keep the research going and keep feeding our tools and making them better.
Of course, yeah. I mean, we have to update our tools constantly to account for bugs that may exist in our software, bugs that may exist in the applications that we're decoding, changes made by vendors, or simply because our understanding changes. And this is a perfect example of where the testing that was originally done focused on a particular use case, but this case brought to light additional use cases and different ways that data can be populated, and the possibility that timestamp probably isn't accurate.
Great. So what you're really saying, Ian, is that Cellebrite chose to make the tool better for users, and we weren't trying to be some part of the giant conspiracy of Karen Reed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we would never modify our decoding or our tool for any other reason than to do what we think is forensically best. We want to give the users the information that we believe is accurate. And in this case, this particular artifact is super easy to validate. You can get any test device and test this out yourself. If we were to modify our software for any kind of nefarious purpose, it wouldn't take long before users realized and quite rightly took us to task for doing things wrong. Right? We only do things because we think it's right.
Well, Ian, I thank you for your time and what you do for this community. And for our viewers, next up, part 2, we're going to discuss testifying in court. Best practices, how to be cool and calm and collected like Ian himself, especially in a case like this that is so conspiracy driven, where there are people that firmly believe one way or the other. They were willing to like put themselves out there on the line for, is she guilty, is she not guilty? We're also gonna have some fun. We're going to read some of the mean tweets that were thrown Ian's way by the social media trolls of the world. So Ian, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.